Tonight, the southeast mopping up after a surprise city gustnado. High-vis heist, Gold Coast home invader arms himself with a kitchen knife. A man gunned down outside a Melbourne Halloween party, sparking violence in the streets. Donald Trump branded violent and dangerous after saying a former congresswoman should have guns trained on her. Hexted overhaul, putting hundreds of dollars back in Queenslanders' pockets. Plus a virus outbreak, the urgent health warning for southeast pet owners.
This is 9 News Queensland with Paul Taylor.
Good evening. Tonight we can show you video of the moment yesterday's strong supercell closed in on Brisbane. A blogger capturing the start of the chaos at Kangaroo Point before Mother Nature unleashed, leaving behind quite the clean-up.
A dark cloud over Brisbane, an eerie sign of what was to come. This YouTuber in Kangaroo Point was already in the middle of live streaming, unaware his video showcasing the river city was about to turn into a live storm show. First to be served up was the hail, followed by strong winds, and then out of nowhere, closing in what we all now know was a gustnado.
People are familiar with tornadoes. Gustnado is a much weaker version. These systems are driven by the interaction of different wind flows.
Spinning relentlessly and captured at various locations across the city.
It was certainly pretty intense, but the cars are safe, so that's good.
Mother Nature at its best.
This was the shocking result of yesterday afternoon's storm cell. Sound of chainsaws and tree cutters dominating the morning walk today. Crews had their hands full, but tree by tree, branch by branch, the debris was cleared, and worst fears for one happy couple thankfully not realised. The sight of Burla and Terry's wedding day, 1 minute an almighty mess, the next cleared and clean, with the sun thankfully shining above.
Well, we were a bit concerned as we walked through here, but fortunately as we went down, it got less problematic.
The supercell to the relief of many, short-lived for southern and eastern suburbs. Emergency crews responding to almost 50 calls for help, mainly for minor damage. The gustnado was a rare sight to behold over the Brisbane River because when they do form, they normally go unnoticed. Yesterday's was in full sight and the strong winds that came with it certainly packed a punch.
They're probably more common than people think, but a lot of times they're very short-lived and very hard to notice as well.
Thankfully, none on the cards for these wedding guests today, but more storms are inevitable during what will be a severe weather season. Jacob Chigo, 9 News.
A Gold Coast family has been left shaken after a terrifying daylight home invasion. The thief, caught on camera, arming himself with a large kitchen knife.
Crawling through shattered glass, dressed in high-vis. This isn't a tradie, but a shameless thief who gets straight to work yesterday afternoon, rummaging through an Ormo family's home.
It says 3:23, which is the exact time my kids would have been coming through the door.
Stripping the pillows, he spends 30 minutes scouring drawers, ransacking bedrooms and the bathroom, building a stash worth thousands.
He's taken laptops, jewellery, some jewellery, my son's Nintendo Switch. Spare keys were taken as well for our cars, so he could come back any time to take those.
Startled after hearing a noise, he runs in a panic to the kitchen to grab a large knife, then checks the coast is clear.
He went round the kitchen to get that knife. Like, what were you going to do with that? I'm just thank my blessings that we had an appointment and we went home.
Before calling an accomplice to help make his getaway.
Back it up the driveway.
The victim says police do have a suspect they're actively searching for, with their stolen iPad tracked 20 minutes up the highway to Logan Reserve.
Hopefully this weekend they will be knocking on his door. I hope that happens.
No doubt a few sleepless nights until then. Hataya Grubski, 9 News.
A man is dead and a gunman is on the run after a shooting outside a Halloween party in Melbourne. In the wake of the killing, wild brawls erupted as partygoers spilled onto the street.
In full view of police, young men square up and attack each other, trading kicks and punches as outnumbered officers barricade the crime scene where a young man was shot and killed. Relatives sprinted past police tape as emotions spilled over, and officers were forced to put a 17-year-old in handcuffs. The girl will be charged on summons with assaulting an officer. Another person attacked our cameraman, who was filming as witnesses poured out of a nearby Halloween-themed party. Police were unable to say whether the gunman or the victim attended the third-day venue before the shooting at 3:15 this morning.
It's a horrific incident.
Detective Acting Inspector Alan Rumble was also unable to say how many times the victim was shot or why. Police have not yet confirmed any detail of his identity.
Our real goal here today is to follow down, identify all avenues of inquiry, investigate those and ensure that the victims, the family of the victim are supported at this horrible time.
The largely industrial area of North Melbourne is swarming with CCTV. Forensics spent hours with the man's body before it was collected for the coroner this afternoon. No one has been arrested or charged over the incident. Police do not believe there is an imminent threat to anyone else.
We've got a lot of resources allocated. A lot of specialist resources allocated, including local police. There is nothing to suggest there is an ongoing immediate risk to the community or to others involved.
Mark Santo-Martino, 9 News.
3 million Australians with student debt could be better off under major changes set to be introduced from next year. The federal government says it will raise the minimum repayment threshold for student loans and slash repayment rates.
Kate Jones studied communication at UTS, graduating yesterday with a big debt.
But I checked it the other day and it's literally $45,000. So for a 3-year course, I was a bit shocked.
The 20-year-old recently started as a casual multimedia video producer at 9. And while she will have to start paying off her debt now she's working, she might not have to pay as much, with the federal government announcing it'll lift the minimum repayment threshold from incomes of $54,000 to $67,000.
What this will do is help people who are just starting out, who've just finished uni, who've just finished TAFE.
It also plans to reduce the amount those with a student debt have to repay, based on incomes of up to $180,000 a year. For example, a graduate earning $70,000 a year would see a $1,300 reduction in their minimum repayments, while a graduate earning $80,000 would pay $850 less.
What it means is that there's more money in your pocket rather than in the government's.
But the opposition claims the changes will leave students worse off in the long term.
Someone on $70,000 with an average HECS debt of $27,000, repaying $450 a year, will take 58 years to repay their debt.
More announcements set to ease cost of living pressures for younger Australians are expected in the coming days, a move the Albanese government will no doubt be hoping translate into votes, with an election not too far away. This week, a change in the way loan repayments are indexed will be debated in Parliament, which could see $3 billion of student debt wiped before Christmas.
I am glad that it's not something I have to think about straight away and it's sort of a later problem.
Kate Creedon, 9 News.
Queensland's new opposition is claiming the LNP has broken another promise over who should be running the state's departments. Josh Bavis joins me in the studio now. And Josh, what is all the fuss about?
Well, Paul, just a few hours after the LNP's new cabinet was announced, out came a statement about the new bureaucrats who'll be running the various departments. All up, 10 directors general are being replaced. 9 will remain, and so too will 3 commissioners. The opposition seized on this today, saying it's a broken promise because David Crisafulli said the majority would remain in their positions.
Now, all we've seen this week is the appointments of directors general being a political plaything of David Crisafulli, and it is the complete opposite of good government.
But when there is a change of government, it's not unusual to see the top bureaucrats being switched out. The government says the new appointments will help fix long-standing problems within departments like health and youth justice. Meanwhile, the vote count by the Electoral Commission continues. Earlier this week, about 5 seats were considered to be in doubt, but 2 of those are looking more secure. That's Nikki Boyd in Pine Rivers holding the line for Labor, and over in Palmerston, Ariana Doolan is holding the line for the LNP. Aspley, Mulgrave and South Brisbane are still too close to call at this stage. It looks like a handful of candidates will have to sweat it out for a few days. And Paul, there also could be a few recounts on the books.
We will wait and see for that one. Thank you very much, Josh. Now to the US election. Donald Trump has been accused of using dangerous rhetoric after suggesting guns should be trained on a critic. The presidential candidate is now being investigated over whether he broke death threat laws just days out from the election.
Donald Trump on familiar ground.
It's great to be in Milwaukee. We love Milwaukee.
Returning to the venue where he first appeared after his assassination attempt. Tonight, frustrated by technology.
I think this mic stinks, by the way.
But it was his treatment of women once again in question.
She's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. You know, when the guns are trained on her face.
The attack on longtime Republican Liz Cheney branded violent and dangerous. The former Congresswoman, who's backing Kamala Harris, warned this is how dictators destroy free nations.
Anyone who wants to be president of the United States who uses that kind of violent rhetoric is clearly disqualified and unqualified to be president.
Donald Trump doubled down.
She's a war hawk and a dumb one at that.
And his supporters stood with him.
The media is going to catch on to it and they're going to use it and they're going to pounce on it and use it for views.
But in Arizona, where the comments were made,
it's deeply troubling.
The state's Attorney General is probing whether the Republican candidate broke laws on death threats as the campaigns hit multiple states and even the same city at the same time.
Trump van stickers.
The reality of what we're seeing here is exactly what's going to come in the final thrust of this campaign as both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris barnstorm the swing states in the hope of what they say and, crucially, where they say it will give them a path to victory. Still, Donald Trump was making it personal.
She'll get overwhelmed, melt down, and millions of people will die.
Across the other side of Milwaukee,
we are turning the page.
As Kamala Harris hopes for a win, officials inside her campaign say they fully expect Donald Trump to claim victory on election night before the votes counted.
Just his history, that's who he is.
In Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Jonathan Kersley, 9 News.
Could Donald Trump's comments affect the election race? Here's Nine's chief political editor, Charles Croucher, in the United States.
Invoking the imagery of shooting is always problematic in America, but particularly at an election time, and particularly this election. Donald Trump's statements about Liz Cheney are made more alarming by the threats on his own life this year. The former president clearly wasn't instructing his supporters to shoot his critic, but it only takes one armed person in a country filled with armed people to see this as a hint to turn to tragedy. Politically, it's also a problem for Donald Trump. Polls suggest he is struggling with women and also risks losing the kind of traditional Republican voters that would have voted for Reagan or Bush or Dick Cheney. The world is lucky Donald Trump dodged the bullet back in July, but the threat for violence this election is far from over.
14 people have died in a freak incident in Serbia's second largest city. A concrete canopy collapsed at the main train station. Serbia's Prime Minister calling it one of the saddest days for the city since the Second World War.
Moments after tragedy struck, ambulances and fire engines raced to Novi Sad train station. It happened around midday local time. CCTV shows people sitting on benches near the entrance to the station in the country's second largest city as the structure came down, crushing bystanders. A desperate dig through rubble. Chunks of masonry so big and heavy, cranes were needed to lift them. 14 people confirmed dead, and that number is expected to rise. Serbia's Prime Minister saying this is one of the worst days in the history of Novi Sad since the Second World War. 80 emergency responders on scene, a 14-year-old girl among those trapped. Some survivors were able to be pulled out but had suffered serious injuries. The station had been renovated twice in the last few years, reopening as recently as July. The canopy that crashed down was built in 1964. Prime Minister Vucevic pledging to hold those responsible for maintaining it accountable. Rescue efforts continuing into the night, the government declaring an official day of mourning. In London, Edward Godfrey, 9 News.
A teenage girl has now been charged over a crash which resulted in the death of an unborn baby in Ipswich earlier this year. Tonight, that baby's mother is speaking out.
It was a split second that turned Hayley Lokisano's life upside down.
Last thing we really saw was just like headlights just come veered straight over onto our lane.
The 25-year-old was rushed to hospital with severe injuries, her unborn baby in distress.
I just fixated on her the whole time that I remember being, aware to focus in and she hadn't moved.
Hayley was in a coma for a week and woke up to learn her miracle baby Celeste had passed away.
It didn't shock me. I already knew. Yeah, I knew.
The 17-year-old girl allegedly driving the car that struck her has now been charged over the crash. If found guilty, the accused could face harsher sentencing after the introduction of Sophie's Law, reforms the result of 10 years of campaigning by Sarah and Peter Miloskovic, whose unborn child Sophie was killed in 2014 by a drunk driver. At the time, the culprit wasn't held accountable, with the laws at the time not recognising children in utero. Sophie's Law was introduced to Parliament last year, the law better recognising the death of an unborn child as a result of criminal conduct. Sarah now also a key part of Hayley's support system.
She has guided me through every single step of the way and I owe her everything for that. Grief is definitely something that it's a lot harder than I ever thought something like this could be.
Next Sides, 9 News.
Flemington has been transformed into a sea of black and white as the Melbourne Cup Carnival kicked off with Derby Day. Racegoers dressing to impress, some putting their own spin on the traditional colour scheme.
I originally had it made to meet the Rolling Stones this year in Las Vegas, but running it through the Derby, and they're telling me that the cowboy motif is in.
I thought I needed to add some wow factor to the dress, and I thought what better way to mix the black and white pearls to go with the Derby Day theme.
Around 80,000 passing through the gates today, with more than 250,000 expected to attend right across the carnival. The worst flood disaster in decades. The community rallies together in Spain amid a desperate search for survivors. Halloween turns to horror as a US gunman targets celebrating crowds. The former Premier under fire over a 000 call made after a crash with a cyclist. And at the end of sport, the urgent warning for southeast pet owners. Former Victorian Premier, then opposition leader Daniel Andrews, has responded to the release of the 000 call he made following a collision with a teen cyclist in 2013. Mr Andrews is denying any wrongdoing, saying the recording confirms his version of events, while the cyclist's father says the audio contradicts them.
Okay, and what's the problem there? Tell me exactly what happened.
We've turned right into Ridley Street and a kid's come flying through on the bike path.
Yep.
And we've hit him.
And is he conscious?
He is conscious, but he's in a lot of pain.
The Muleman family want Victoria Police to reopen the investigation into the crash. 205 people have now died from Spain's worst flood disaster in decades. Rescue operations are still underway to find everyone missing, as the community's call for help were unanswered.
The flood of water replaced by a flood of volunteers. Thousands of people descending on Valencia, armed with shovels, brooms, buckets and bottled water, working as one to wipe the muddy streets clean. Donations pouring in too, providing what this community in Spain needs to survive. The worst of Mother Nature, bringing out the best of humanity.
They try to give to the people the things that they can eat or they can drink, because now it's a chaos.
Basic services like running water, electricity and phone connections remaining cut off in some areas. Dozens of people are still missing and search efforts are ongoing.
Sorry. They passed away.
Piled up cars and debris blocking streets, leaving some residents trapped 3 days on. As the shock wears off for others, the devastation has set in. This man who lost his house says, "I have lived there all my life. I am 62 years old, and now in one night it is all gone." The Pope offering his prayers, but with more rain forecast, this community knows there are more challenging days ahead. In London, Hannah Sinclair, 9 News.
The US has announced it will deploy more military assets to the Middle East with a ballistic defence destroyer, a fighter squadron and strike bombers to be sent to the region in coming months. It comes as Israel is reported to be at a high level of readiness for a response from Iran. 2 people are dead and at least 6 others are wounded after a shooter opened fire as crowds gathered for Halloween in the US city of Orlando. Police were quick to take a 17-year-old into custody with the arrest caught on CCTV. Hidden heart problems tonight. The shock smoking revelation. How long it actually takes to recover after you've quit. Are you still at risk decades on? That is ahead. On the front line of America's border crisis. Ahead, a special report from our US correspondent in Arizona just days from the election. A carer runs into fire to save a 7-year-old patient from his burning home. The high-tech help arriving just in time for summer. And the taste of Queensland. Distilleries come together for a one-of-a-kind creation. A disabled man has survived a terrifying ordeal trapped in his bed when his Adelaide home went up in flames just after 1 in the morning. His carer jumping to his rescue, dragging him through the flames and out of the house to safety. The cause of the fire remains unknown, with the damage estimated at $150,000. In the race to the White House, one of the major issues is immigration. America's southern border becoming a flashpoint for both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. 9 News travelled to Arizona to find out firsthand what voters are feeling on the front line.
The White House is almost 4,000 kilometres from Nogales, Arizona, and yet it's right here at America's southern border where a large part of this campaign's being fought.
We're going to have the largest deportation in the history of our country.
I believe we have a duty to set rules at our border and to enforce them.
Both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump targeting this Sunbelt state. It's one of the 7 battlegrounds. Here, immigration is the key issue.
The people running over the border, coming in illegally, then the crimes, going up in the areas like this area here.
Melvin Davis is a military veteran. He was a long-time Democrat until Kamala Harris took over the campaign.
Kalama, whatever her name is, Miss Harris. I call her Miss Harris. I believe it's her, yeah. I think she had me to change my whole voting situation.
The Phoenix local turning to President 45. He says Donald Trump has the right policies in place, even if he does campaign on dangerous rhetoric.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in, they're eating the cats.
He is what he is. He's, I don't think he cut any corners. I don't think he's racist.
With rolls of razor wire and concrete panels, the wall here at Nogales, Arizona looks more like a high-security prison fence. This is the front line of America's immigration crisis, where the divide couldn't be more stark.
My parents migrated from Mexico
to come to America for a better life.
Sal finds Trump's views on migrants frustrating. He's already submitted his vote for Kamala Harris.
She just understands the people. She comes from a background similar to probably mine, you know, our immigrant parents, and working hard, you know, working at restaurants and stuff like that. We all did that at once, and I think that she's very relatable.
Arizona went blue with Biden in the last election, red with Trump before that. A swing state and its voters divided, but one thing they hope to agree on.
You know, I do think the American dream is true.
In Arizona, Lauren Tomazi, 9 News.
Queensland's firefighters have a new high-tech ally this summer. New thermal drones giving crews an eye in the sky, tracking hotspots from above.
From battling blazes on foot to delivering a drenching from above, our firefighters work around the clock to protect Queenslanders. And with a drier than average summer predicted, authorities are ready for another bad season of blazes.
Fires can happen anywhere, anytime, and we've certainly seen a lot of grassland growth right across the state, and those fires are occurring.
This year, they've got a new weapon up their sleeves, world-class thermal imaging drones to help provide crews with an eye in the sky.
We are able to detect and locate hotspots as well as active fire and pass this information onto the ground crews.
The technology also helping keep fireys out of harm's way.
Drones allow us to get into areas where aircraft can't. We can also operate in adverse weather conditions and not put pilots and aircrew in dangerous conditions.
These drones can fly up to 20 kilometres or as far as the eye can see. They also have speakers, spotlights, and can carry small payloads to help in search and rescue operations.
People that might be isolated on a mountain or by floodwater, and we're able to render assistance by dropping a certain payload, and that could be medication, that could be water, that could be a communications device.
And this drone fleet is ready and waiting to be launched into action.
From the border, from the New South Wales border, right up to Cairns and out to Mount Isa, where we have that available during the bushfire season to assist our crews on the ground.
Pat Heaney, 9 News.
They are usually competitors in the rum industry, but 4 Queensland distilleries have teamed up to create a unique drop. Bundaberg Bean Lee Rum, Nil Desperandum and Kalki Moon, blending together the rum consortium as part of Queensland Rum Day, the special limited edition bottle designed to celebrate everything about sugarcane in the Sunshine State. The rum's available from each distillery involved, as well as online. The world's wickedest and biggest stars go from one Oz to another for a special movie premiere. The 2024 official word of the year that doesn't mean what you'd expect. How long it really takes for your health to recover from smoking. And the bizarre eye in the sky spotted in outer space. Time now to take a look at today's property results. 41 properties went to auction, the clearance coming in at 33%. As for the most expensive property, a home at Grange sold for just over $4.5 million. On the cheaper end of the scale, a unit in South Brisbane went for $445,000. Pop superstar Ariana Grande's touchdown in Oz for the world premiere of her new movie Wicked. It is a fresh take on the classic story Judy Garland and those ruby slippers brought to life nearly a century ago.
Through the doors at Sydney International, a wicked welcome to the land of Oz. Crowds gathering for hours to catch a glimpse and get a snap of Ariana Grande and co-star Cynthia Erivo. No brooms needed, a 15-hour flight from LA. The stars with a nod to their characters, popular witches Gildea and Elphaba, proving pink goes good with green.
The time has come. We're so grateful to be starting in Oz. Oh my gosh. We're starting in Oz.
The Broadway hit turned blockbuster tells the story of the Wizard of Oz through the eyes of the Wicked Witch of the West.
It's the wizard who should be afraid of me.
The film revolving around an unlikely friendship.
Come with me. What? To meet the wizard. Why couldn't possibly? This is your moment. I'm coming.
Coming to life with live singing from the stars on the set during filming.
Mean to you? Oh my goodness, everything. Everything, truly everything. It's a dream come true, and to share with this incredible cast, we're all so grateful.
In the city, Maya windows transformed with costumes and merchandise.
I dropped everything and I said to my mum, I need to get in the city now and try to find her.
Tomorrow's world premiere will be hosted right here at the State Theatre, and most likely won't be a walk down the red carpet, but the yellow brick road. The stars also sticking around to experience the real Oz.
Yes. I really would like to see the Opera House.
The Opera House. And also just sharing this moment with our fans here.
The first stop on a 5-city tour, because there's no place like Australia. Madison Scott, 9 News.
Well, it's not its usual definition of a badly behaved child, but the word brat has been picked as Collins Dictionary's word of the year, defined as confident, independent and a little bit messy. The term going viral off the back of British singer Charlie XCX's album by that same name, which was released in June. Other words shortlisted were anti-tourism and delulu. Not Delulu, the central Queensland town, just delulu. An unusual solar eclipse has been spotted on Mars. A potato-shaped moon was observed passing in front of the sun. NASA saying the event created a googly eye effect as it crossed the planet. The eclipse was captured by the space agency's Perseverance rover. A jockey with a broken nose rides to victory in the Melbourne Cup Carnival. A major headaches for Aussie test selectors as hopefuls press their cases in Queensland. At the end of sport, the deadly danger for southeast pets. What you need to know.
And she's a chilly night up here on the Sunshine Coast. Caloundra currently seeing winds gusting just over 40 kilometres an hour. Fortunately, some warmer temps on the way for our Sunday. I'll have all the details of full weather and beach and surf report coming up soon.
Champion jockey Jamie Carr has stolen the show on the first day of the Melbourne Cup Carnival, riding to victory in the Victoria Derby with a broken nose. The day a roller coaster for Carr, who had earlier accepted a ban for dangerous riding and honoured a friend with another emotional win.
A touch of spring in the air with Flemington in full bloom. 80,000 turning out as the people made the most of their day.
Give me a crack with a whip to get going. Away we go, ladies and gentlemen.
A black and white throwback with punters partying like it's 1855 for Australia's oldest feature race, the Victoria Derby.
And they're racing. Keeneland away fairly.
The Anthony Cummings-trained El Costello started as a hot favourite, but also in barrier 16 near the stands and well back in the field with a kilometre to go. By the time they hit Flemington's famous straight, Gold Rush Guru had surged to the lead with Jamie Carr on board.
Gold Rush Guru for South Australia with 100 to go is pulling out. It's the stronger. It's going well. And Gold Rush Guru won the Derby.
An extraordinary turn of events for the champion jockey, who was left bloodied earlier in the day and scratched from race 5 after Hurry Curry refused to enter the gates. Carr needing to pass a concussion test just to get a start in the Derby.
You know what fixes broken noses? Champagne. I have plenty waiting for you when you cross the line first.
She has those days. It's never just smooth. It's up and down, but great win for South Australia.
Not to mention emotionally drained after a win in the Damien Oliver on board the Kieran Maher-trained Another Will, just days after the death of friend, part owner and racing legend Colin McKenna.
A win that means so much.
I just wanted to make Cole proud, and thank God we got the win in the end. Something picked us up and carried us over the line.
Yeah, he's just such a great mentor, mate. Everything you could want.
No twists or turns in the first of the day's 3 Group 1s. A 6-furlong straight shot. The field of future sprinting champions turned into Swiss cheese as Chris Waller claimed his 6th Coolmore Stakes.
This is going to be dominant. Switzerland, the big winner.
And it was double trouble for the J-Mac Waller connection in the Empire Rose.
It's a head bobbing go. A tissue wins.
2 Group 1 wins on Derby Day, nothing to sneeze at. Mark Gottlieb, 9 News.
Master trainer William Haggis has done it again at today's $10 million Golden Eagle. Lake Forest claimed victory at Rose Hill with champion jockey Kieran Fallon in the saddle.
You know, Kieran has ridden that so beautifully, and that was the plan. You know, sit back, let them all kill themselves in front, and come through to finish. But a really brave ride from Kieran, and oh my God, how exciting!
It's the 10th major race win in Australia for Haggis since 2020. Nathan McSweeney is strengthening his case to become Australia's next Test opener, again outscoring other contenders in the tour match against India A in Mackay, unbeaten in Australia A's second innings on 47. Fellow opening contenders Sam Constas and Cam Bancroft out for 16, while Marcus Harris made 36. Meanwhile, Usman Khawaja scored a half-century for the Bulls before rain washed out day 2 of Queensland's Sheffield Shield clash with New South Wales. The Hurricanes have handed the Heat their first loss of the WBBL season, chasing down Brisbane's total of 173 with 2 balls to spare. Heat opener Grace Harris was well on her way to 100, but a brain fade saw her caught for 75. Danny Wyatt-Hodge scoring 62 off just 35 balls for Hobart to guide her side to victory. Cameron Smith's name looms large on the leaderboard heading into the final round of the Queensland PGA Championship. That's despite enduring a frustrating day at Nudgee, where the major champion had to wait 15 holes before making a birdie.
Not the walk in the park many thought it would be for Cameron Smith, starting the day 5 off the pace. His quest to make up ground hindered by a miscue into the water. Instead, it was Smith's playing partner, Harry Hillier, who made an early charge.
Played it beautifully. Oh, come on. That's in. Oh, thank you very much.
Overnight leader Phoenix Campbell had things rolling his way, while Smith found trouble in the trees. The former British Open champion going an agonising 14 holes without making a birdie.
Yeah, you can see the frustration.
A horror lie in a bunker.
Oh.
Adding to his exasperation, it became even more hazardous, forced to rely on every bit of short game skill from his repertoire to stay in contention.
Stab that out. Yeah. Oh, hello.
Smith's class eventually shone through in the end. Birdies on 3 of the last 4 holes, salvaging his round.
It's almost like the first thing that went to plan for the day.
He'll begin the final round 3 shots behind Campbell, who's aiming to win back-to-back Queensland PGA titles, a feat not accomplished since 1998. Adam Jackson, 9 News.
Searching for their first win of the season in the A-League, the Raw have played out a 5-goal thriller against Sydney FC at Suncorp Stadium. Brisbane fell behind twice in the match before levelling it up at 2-2 late in the second half, but it ended in disappointment for the home crowd with a booming strike sealing victory for Sydney FC. The heartbreaking finish sees the Raw start the new season with back-to-back defeats. Canberra's Mary Stanich-Flatty is an early contender for goal of the season in the A-League women's competition, netting this spectacular volley to put her side 2-0 ahead of the Raw at half-time. Eve Papadanova answering back for Brisbane before a goal from Deborah Delaharp with minutes remaining, but the home side held on, Raw with a 3-2 loss to open their season. Alex de Minaur's run at the Paris Masters is over. The Demon defeated by world number 13 Holger Rune in a hard-fought quarter-final, 6-4, 4-6, 7-5. Fellow Aussie Jordan Thompson was also knocked out, beaten by local Hugo Humbert in straight sets. Oscar Piastri is flying ahead of the Brazilian Grand Prix, producing a blistering lap time to claim pole for tomorrow's sprint race. Piastri relegated teammate Lando Norris to second with his late effort, but declared he will give up victory if it helps Norris' world title dream. Championship leader Max Verstappen was 4th fastest. What a good teammate, Paul. I don't know if I'd be that generous. I like to win, clearly.
I'm in front and I'm staying there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bronte. Well, a recent spike in parvovirus cases in dogs has prompted a warning from vets right across Queensland, urging pet owners to ensure their animals are up to date with their vaccinations. Parvovirus is a highly contagious illness that progresses rapidly without treatment and, in some cases, can be fatal.
And it's quite worrying that we are noticing and hearing about parvovirus in the community. It starts in the small intestine and it makes its way to the bone marrow. And from here, it can also affect the heart muscles.
Unvaccinated dogs and puppies are most at risk, with symptoms including loss of appetite, lethargy and fever. In just 3 minutes' time, the secret smoking side effect after quitting. Tonight, how your health could still be at risk decades on. That's coming up. But first, Luke Bradnam's back with a check on the weather conditions. Luke, storms any around tonight?
Yeah, we do, PT, actually. A severe thunderstorm warning in place right now for parts of the southeast, as well as just north of where we are this evening in Caloundra, up around Wide Bailiff. All the very latest, the full forecast coming up next.
There is new evidence on the health impacts of heavy smoking and the lasting effects on the heart. Gabriella Rogers has the details.
Smoking is the leading cause of preventable disease and death in Australia. People who stop, no matter what age, will improve their health and boost life expectancy. While quitting significantly reduces someone's risk of cardiovascular disease, new research shows there's a lag according to someone's smoking history. For heavy smokers who quit, it can take more than 25 years for their heart health to return to normal. The Korean study analysed data from 5 million people as part of the country's mandatory health insurance program. It also revealed that a light smoker's heart health returns to normal within a decade of quitting.
The study reaffirms what we know about smoking. There's no safe level of smoking. And the best thing that you can do if you're a smoker is to quit and to stay smoke-free for as long as possible in your life.
The heart is just one aspect. Quitting lowers the risk of 12 types of cancer and chronic lung disease.
Luke's back now in my old hometown of Caloundra, 4551. G'day there, Luke. Some warm temps on the way.
Yeah, it can't come soon enough, PT, just quietly. She's pretty chilly, your hometown this evening. These southeasterly winds up over 40 kilometres an hour. Fortunately, guys, they will drop off overnight, and then we'll see some northerly winds return tomorrow. That's what's going to push in those warmer temps, especially for Melbourne Cup Day on Tuesday. I'll show you that outlook in just a moment. First up, let's have a look at today's temperatures. And as I mentioned, a bit of a cool one. Below average temps for the Gold Coast, top of just 25 degrees. A little bit warmer for the city, getting up to 27, up to the high 20s in the western suburbs, and here on the sunny coast, a top of 26 degrees. Just some light showers over the Gold Coast this evening. If we look at tomorrow's weather map, we could see some showers pushing up to the southeast Queensland coastline, only talking about 1 millimetre, hardly enough to put the windscreen wipers on, and showers for the south of the nation as well. If you're heading interstate tomorrow, we've got a partly cloudy day on the way for Sydney. Also a nice day on the way for Adelaide. A shower or two though for Melbourne and Hobart. A partly cloudy day for Perth, and for you in Darwin, a warm top of 35 degrees with a shower or two. Back home, a possible shower for Cairns. Partly cloudy though for Townsville and Mackay. And then look at those temperatures in the west. An absolute scorcher on the way. 40 degrees for Longreach as well as the Isa, and hitting the mid-30s for you in Roma. A partly cloudy day through the Capricornia coast, just the slight chance of a very light shower. Pretty much the same for the Fraser coast as well, with those temperatures up in the high 20s. And then here in the southeast, only a medium chance of showers for all of us. As I said, only a sprinkle. Slightly warmer for our Sunday, 27 degrees along the coast, 30 degrees in the west. And not a bad day out on the bay tomorrow. Easterly winds 10 to 15 knots. We'll see seas below a metre. A lot better offshore for the boaties tomorrow than it was today as well. For the city, heading for a top of 28, dropping down tonight to 20 with just a possible shower on the way tomorrow. Partly cloudy for our Monday, a possible shower and 31 degrees for Melbourne Cup Day. For Ipswich, a possible shower tomorrow, partly cloudy and 34 degrees we're going to reach on Monday, and a shower or two for Melbourne Cup Day. For the Gold Coast, a possible shower tomorrow, and then partly cloudy and 29 degrees from Monday through to Wednesday next week. And here on the sunny coast, a possible shower tomorrow, mostly sunny for Monday and partly cloudy for Melbourne Cup Day. Let's have a look at the beaches for tomorrow. Well, pretty lean pickings for the board riders out there this morning, unfortunately, with those southerly winds kicking in super early. Believe it or not, this is the best we could find for you, and she's hardly pumping down at Burleigh. Small, lumpy waves on offer, but the good news for tomorrow is we do have better conditions on the way if you're prepared to get out there at the crack of dawn. Light winds forecast early, and then those strong northerlies kicking in by around lunchtime. For beachgoers, have a look at this from this morning. A solar halo off Miami Beach looking sensational. Water temps hanging in there around 21 degrees, and again, morning conditions best whether you're up the sunny coast or down here on the Gold Coast. Offshore for the boaties, again, super early. There's plenty out there. This morning, Keely Rose Charters out of Rainbow Beach, again, just nailing it. Great stuff. And PT, before I go, good luck to everybody having a crack at the Noosa Triathlon tomorrow. The biggest triathlon in the Southern Hemisphere. Go hard, you champions, and get out on the course and support if you can.
That is amazing stuff. Thank you for that, Luke. 31 degrees in Delulu, if you want to know. That is 9 News Queensland this Saturday. Thank you for your company. Deborah Knight is next with A Current Affair. In the meantime, I'm Paul Taylor from all of us. Good night.